Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk everything animation here, including Final Space, which we'll be getting into right now. I'm Dylan Hysen, and today I'm joined by Michelle Anderer.
Hello.
Mel Moyer.
Is it Mel? It is.
Yes, good. Off to a good start. And Alex Bonilla.
Chookity buck.
Okay, that was close to what he said in this.
Yeah.
Wasn't that last week he did the super serious Chookity buck? Anyway. This is a
super
super serious podcast because we are talking the epic Final Space Season 1 finale, Chapter 10 of Final Space. We have so much to get into here. This is going to be a jammed-packed podcast. We talk about Final Space every week on the Overly Animated Podcast. That is new. Find us at overlyanimated.com or search for Overly Animated Final Space on iTunes. Subscribe there on YouTube to not miss any of our future Final Space podcasts. And we might be doing
We
might be doing a second finale discussion. So we will see. Oh, yeah, that's okay. Spoilers for all of Season 1 of Final Space. Let's get your guys' initial takes. Let's keep these just short, though, because I have a giant outline and a ton of stuff to get through from this episode. So your brief initial thoughts. I know Alex has been chomping at the bit, choking at the bit to get into
nice.
this. So, Alex, what did you think of the finale?
I mean, when I first watched it, I ended up being very infuriated to the point where I was like just rubbing my hands over the keyboard, not sure how to express my thoughts. I was very angry at it somehow. But like after rewatching it, I'm like, well, is this the best episode of the show? Like, I'm very confused on how I feel about this. Like, it's such an episode. Like, everything ends so terribly, and yet like. It's similar to some shows that we watch where like their season finale is something where the main characters actually don't end up winning in the end. Like that's not as uncommon as it might have been in previous years, let's say. But like still seeing all this happen, like all this end like this, just so open-ended and with a feeling of failure. Like it's a strange feeling to come out of a season finale. So like I think it was executed very well. But like it made me feel so many things, and that's a great part of the show. Like you like got all the rage and happiness and out of me. So like good for you, Final Space. You've made my life a better experience for this.
Alex, depressed from the finale, right? Infuriated, a lot of emotions.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll get into it. I thought interesting. I thought you'd be coming out of the gate positive. That was
I did
that's
too.
Closer to what my take will be. But Michelle, what did you think of the finale?
I was surprised by how much I liked this episode. I think it's my number 2 for the season. I think it beat out episode 7 in the number 2 slot. But I think 4 is still like my diehard fave. A lot of character moments in this episode worked really well for me, and I was super surprised by it. And I think a lot of them like hit stronger and did the thing they've been trying to do in other episodes that I was more critical of. But I feel like there were a lot more highs this episode where I was like really into the action, I was really into the character stuff, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'm like feeling strong emotions. Like I'm glad the show can do this to me so many times in one episode. It definitely has some problems. The ending, we're gonna talk about it. It didn't make me mad, but I was kind of like, ooh, if you had just committed to it, it would have been so much more, like, I might not have hated Gary so much if you had freaking just committed to it and not had that final part where like, oh, maybe, you know? But like, we'll talk about it. Overall, I think it was pretty strong, and I feel like I feel like they're really figuring out some things and making things stronger. That makes me really, really happy for them. And I'm a lot more positive going forward if they do get greenlit for more, to watch that too. Because I think overall it was a pretty high note to go out on. Not like positive, like in terms of happiness, but just positive in terms of like strong, you know? So yeah, I liked it. I liked it a lot. Okay.
Yeah, interested to see what your problems are with it. I don't know if I have too many specific problems, but also, reminder, we record these out of time. If we make any references to what may or may not be true in the future, we don't know yet. Okay.
Yeah.
Mel, what are your takes on the season finale?
I really liked it. I like the cliffhangery, like depressing endings to things. I cannot stand the whole, like, friggin' near-death, I've been sent to give you a choice crap.
He Dumbledored! He was totally Dumbledore! I wrote that in my notes.
I hate that so much. It's
Mel,
so
why do you hate Harry Potter? Jeez.
It's so on the nose. Like I'm over that. So I think that was my biggest detractor for this episode was that. Like it was just such a tone and mood ruiner. But otherwise I really enjoyed a lot of this. You know, it was super actiony, super dramatic, but also super funny. One of my favorite lines ever in the history of anything was said in this episode.
What is it? What is it?
When h.u.e. tells k.v.n that he will beat him within an inch of his life. Unless he gets up there and mans the turret, and then k.v.n's like, yeah, k.v.n is expendable, and
he says, k.v.n, if you don't get outside, if you don't get on the outside turret, I will beat you within 1 inch of your life. k.v.n says, guys, I'm the most expendable. Congratulations to me. Yeah.
h.u.e.'s monotone.
I had to pause and go back and rewatch it because I enjoyed it so much. So there's a lot I liked about this. It was just that one big thing sticks out to me as a huge, just like tone killer and just overall detractor.
Interesting. Okay. I'll have some specific questions for you from a writer's perspective too, Mel, about the finale. But I really like the finale. This is just jammed packed with tons of epic finale stuff. I generally really like season finales like this, just going back to Avatar: The Last Airbender days. Just the mold of having a huge epic conclusion. It's something that I'm frustrated more of the shows we covered don't follow that model. And I think this is it. This was really great. I don't have a lot of specific problems with the episode. I have problems with how this concludes the season overall. Like, I don't think the season comes together that well, but like, if we're talking the specific episode, I think it's fantastic. There's just so much here, and I want to get into, I don't even know what the number one headline is, to be honest, coming out of the finale.
You know what it is. It's k.v.n's demise, clearly.
That's right, you're a huge...
This is the most soul-crushing, and the thing that really hit me was, like, seeing Gary cry, because I'm 99% convinced it was tears of joy. I know, and I was like, oh!
It was tears of joy, yeah.
It was the culmination of all his most deepest desires come true.
See, that's the thing is, you're a huge k.v.n fan, and nobody likes k.v.n, and I'm huge Tribore fan.
Yeah, and they're the two people who clearly died, so rip your favorites.
Did Tribore clearly die? Like, I think Tribore...
In the list of... this is a finale riddled with questionable, are they dead characters. So the character who clearly dies is k.v.n. I would say the second most dead character is Tribore, but...
Second most dead.
Because what's-her-face is like, who's our leader now? And
right.
I was like, me. And I was like, I don't think that's how that...
You say what's-her-face as if she has a real name. No, she's the fangirl, yeah. She's just like...
What's her... Yeah.
Yeah.
The only other chick in this show.
Oh, we'll talk Tribore. But, I do have the first thing being that, they pulled a Rogue One here in this finale.
They did.
I think they have a bunch of, this finale is riddled with things that remind you of other things, like, very tropey elements to it. This is definitely one of them in that they're killing off all of the characters at the end. I don't think they commit to it. Because
that's the problem. Yeah. Like at the end, like Gary aside, like Quinn,
Mooncake, and Little Kato have very uncertain fates.
Mooncake is the worst because he's just stuck there in the beam.
And her commander might still be alive too. I mean,
okay, let's go over my status chart here. So dead, k.v.n. Probably Tribore, Hank. We don't care about Hank. Although Hank is like kind of revived in the montage. I don't understand that, but
I don't know.
Questionable. Not clear whether they're dead or alive. Quinn, Mooncake, and Little Kato. And then clearly not dead, I would say Gary, Lord Commander, and h.u.e. are alive. Lord Commander I don't think is in any danger. He's just there at the end, like, sobbing. Yeah. But I guess he's dying the whole show, so in that
He's slowly dying.
Yeah.
He's constantly in a state of dying, so is he ever really in danger?
That's true.
Deep.
That's just his life now.
If Mooncake is still there, what's to stop him from just opening the hole again?
Those are questions for next season.
Right. I mean, I think we need to. Gary's gonna need to open the hole because the Earth is in final space now. So I think Gary needs to open it.
Back.
Gary needs to open it to venture into final space. Yeah. I think it's an interesting sequence. Honestly, the only thing that wowed me from like a overall show mythology standpoint was the Titan hand sucking the Earth into final space. That was like the unexpected thing. Everything else here felt like okay.
It was impressive visually, but this show hasn't cared about Earth. Like, we've spent barely any time on Earth, except when it's a ruin and everybody has abandoned it already. So why should I care?
Yeah, no, it's a great point. We've only been on Earth for
It's one of those things
episode.
where it's like you care because the characters care.
Yeah.
But you personally have no reason to care.
It's like even with Star Wars, right? Like they blow up Alderaan or whatever, but like that only works because like Leia has the reaction, and then Obi-Wan's like, oh, millions of people have died or what. But like this is an abandoned planet.
Yeah, that's true.
No one
yeah,
there.
well, I mean, probably filled with dead people. Did they leave her? Are humans colonizing?
The suggestion was that majority of the people had left the planet.
So it must be somewhere.
Yeah, maybe we'll explore that next. Yeah, that's a very Doctor Who concept to explore next season. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
But like honestly, that was one of the things that bugged me though, because Quinn has that line, "We lost the Earth, but I can still save you." I'm like, Quinn, there's a whole other universe outside of Earth you can save too. Yeah.
Why do they? I guess there are.
There are other people. There are other alien civilizations. I mean, Tribore for one's an alien. There are other.
I mean, I think he's an Earth dweller, but yeah.
No, it's not a local.
We visited several other planets in this show. Like the show has shown us that this universe is very expansive.
It's not a local.
It's the only thing out there, Gary, that matters. It's like, honey, no, you know that's not true. You know there are other planets out there.
Also, my thing about that too was like, okay, but like, what the frick does he have to live for with all his friends dead and his planet gone? Like, why are you trying to save him?
Wow, that's dark.
It's not, like, in the sense that, like, oh, I can still save you, and it's like, for what? His ship is destroyed. Like, what? I don't.
Look, that ship might be destroyed, but the Gary Quinn ship sailed in this episode.
God's sake.
Okay. No, I think that was the point of that line. It was.
It was the point. It was just like I was just thinking logically, Quinn. This is ridiculous.
That's interesting. I did not have that reaction on my four viewings of this episode. I did not have that thought. But yeah, let's go over each of the characters and their status and what we thought of them. We can start with Kevin because that was the most tragic death of
what was the most tragic?
Michelle, Kevin is your eternal favorite, and what's your reaction to him dying?
I typed Kevin died, no, in all caps, and then I wrote Gary's tears of joy, angry face.
Can Kevin die as like a robot?
That's what I'm wondering. Maybe they could bring him back if they give him new hardware.
But will he be the same Kevin?
I don't know. That's a sad.
Yes, he will, because in the last episode, he met a bunch of Kevins who were exactly like him.
No, he was the out scrappy one.
He was the original Kevin.
Yeah, he was the original cool one. They thought he was awesome.
Look, obviously, we can probably bring Kevin back in some capacity, but Michelle, you were devastated.
There are only two times that there is true suspense for me in this. One was Kevin dying, and one was watching Quinn, like, go onto the thing and do her mission. Like, I thought that was, like, pretty intense, too. But the Kevin thing happened first. And that totally, like, smacked me in the face. I was very upset. I was not surprised.
You got to go out gunning.
Yeah, he got to go out fighting, which is what he always does for his friends. He protected
Gary, yeah.
He went out gutting, but he didn't take any joy in the fighting. Like that whole Kevin on the turret scene, felt very weak compared to the last couple of Kevin fighting scenes we've done. Like Kevin's usually doing zingers all over the place, and here he's just like spinning in a circle.
He was saying some things that were slightly audible, but yeah, it was.
Yeah, but like I'm just saying, like it wasn't a great lead up to his death. Like,
look, the important part was the Gary Kevin emotional reaction in the beginning of the episode. Kevin says,
"I will be actual tears." So I guess you can say it was emotional.
It was
emotional for him.
Emotional in some way, yeah. In the beginning of the episode, Kevin says, "I will become your deep space insanity avoidance forever companion." Yeah, and I will never leave you, Gary.
Yeah.
Gary's tears of joy. That was one of the best parts of the fed. But
that hurt so bad, but it was in character, so I allowed it.
Also, actually, I'm a bit of a sucker for like robots dying with like their voices going down.
Exactly.
We had fun.
I know, it's so sad. Poor Kevin. He deserves a funeral.
We don't have time.
I don't think that's happening. But I don't. In an episode full of ambiguous deaths, they clearly showed Kevin's dead husk of a metal corpse. Yeah.
Sticking out.
I will say, I do think they need to bring Kevin back for season 2.
Oh, please! He's such a good character.
Yeah, you can do new and improved Kevin, and he's like an absurd mech body.
Can you approve of Kevin though?
I don't know if you can improve.
I feel like you could.
Does he not peak K.v.n?
He's already peaked K.v.n.
I don't think he has reached his final form. Even when he's in the mecha, I don't think that was his final form.
Really?
Not even in my final form. Yeah, we'll see. We need more Fred Armisen and more K.v.n. So we'll see. Tribore gets shot down. I was devastated.
Did Tribore get shot down? He did.
Mel, I was so hype last week at the coming out party for Tribore with Resistance Leader Tribore.
Yeah.
What did you think of the 2-arc Resistance Leader Tribore, these 2 episodes?
I've liked Tribore from the beginning just because I enjoy the cadence of his speech and the purpose of his just general presence. The fact that they were like, oh yeah, Tribore's the like leader of the resistance and like apparently has like, you know, like fangirls and stuff was perfect for me because of course Tribore would be that type of character. I just loved his bit. Like, I guess it was the last episode when he's like, I can't remember, I guess, because I watched them back to back, where he like gets on the screen and he's like, it's time to resist.
No, it's this episode. Yeah, so this episode, Tribore says, if only there was a resistance. Wait, there is a resistance.
Wait,
and I'm its leader. Yeah, and then he says, resistance, is it time to resist? It is.
It is.
Oh my god.
And then he's doing the,
Oh, that was him!
That was him.
Who was doing that.
It was him.
As the little dudes are getting ready to get in their thingy-mabobbers. No, I think it's great. Like, I think he's just such a great comic relief character. I enjoyed him so much. And like, I liked it, you know, at the end when he's like, give me mooncake. And they were all kind of like, basically like formed up the Avengers there with them on the ship. And they were like, no, we'll never give him up. And I was like, oh, Tribore is part of the group now. This is great. So I want him not to be dead. I think he'd be a great little, a nice little dynamic there with his just, I know everyone else hates him. I love him. He's so great. I love that he blinks asynchronously, I guess.
Yeah.
Asynchronously, as well. So.
Yeah, that's great. If he dies, he says, is this bad? Sure the hell is.
Is bad? Sure the hell is.
Yeah, I think his line, resistance is a time to resist, it is the culmination of a wonderful character. And I have a hot take. I think
that is a hot take already.
No, I have a hot take. Resistance leader Tribore, him being the resistance leader is the best gag of the season. I think it's number 1. I think it landed so well for me these last 2
because
episodes.
You don't see him for like 3 episodes solidly, and then all of a sudden you go back to, because you were like, oh, we're going back to Earth, and then there's Tribore ruling New York. So.
yes, he's so good. I'm so that's the saddest death, that and K.v.n. So sad, but
I will say
it's the most expendable.
I didn't mind Tribore this episode. Like, I honestly thought like he was not overused. I thought he was well incorporated. I liked a lot of his lines, and I liked that he drew the flames. That was like actually really freaking funny, and he like misreads why Gary's smiling. He's like, "Oh yeah, you're into this. Yeah, you like the flames." And I thought that was a really great touch.
Yeah, he draws flames. He says, "Is it too late?" It is, and he's so happy.
Yeah. Also, I think they do a random cutaway to him while they're ramming towards the Lord Commander ship. He's like, "This is fun. It's fun, isn't it?" Or something like that. But yeah, I also agree that this is actually Tribore's best episode. Like, I'm fine with him here.
Thank you. I say as if I personally had anything to do with it.
Yeah, but yeah, like I don't want Tribore to be dead, and also like his death was one of the more ambiguous to me in this episode. So like, at least for me, the door is wide open for him to return, and I would love for him to come back.
We don't know.
Yeah, the other, I love the flames, and this other like small Tribore moment is that Tribore comes. Quinn's like, "Is anyone out there?" He's like, "Tribore is," and then but I love how like happy Quinn is to know that Tribore has his back.
Yeah,
Quinn was just so genuinely happy. She never made that face at Gary. She just
that is true.
Hashtag Quinn Tribore. No,
Quinn and Tribore their friendship is my favorite.
TP.
Yeah,
Tribore went through Quinn's clothes.
Yeah,
that's true friends. Yeah. True friends. Okay, that was our Tribore discussion. Yeah, I think just that was so good. I Olin said Tribore comes back with this ridiculous, incredible arc. I agree. It was amazing. Hank, Rip Hank, the robots. I think they had one good line with with little Kato, and they're like, we don't want, let us go too, so he doesn't die like his father. Whoops, that was insensitive. I don't know if that was good.
I also enjoyed his final line, or I don't know if it's Hank or the other one, but is this what death feels like? Not bad, just weird.
Just weird.
Just weird.
Kind of call back to what's episode 7 with them and some sexual joke, I think. Yeah,
I feel aroused. This is not strange.
Yeah. They like strange feelings. I don't know if their emotion processors are fully aligned. But yeah, more of the robots who have a name, and they said it like once on the show. But
the Sames,
Sames, yeah,
just
they're
like
the
Kevin's
Sames.
all have the name.
Okay, so Quinn's status. I'll have a whole segment on Gary Quinn, but Quinn goes into the into the rift, right? The breach. So is Quinn in final space?
I assume.
Yeah, I mean, this is when she's going to become Night. I want to say Nighthawk, but it's Nightfall. Yeah,
Nightfall.
She's going to be Nightfall now, right?
Yeah.
Different.
Also, the weird thing is that the Titan's hand comes out while Quinn is still in that breach. So, I'm not sure how that works.
I mean, either she's dead or she's in final space, I think. Or she could be in interspace, I guess.
She could be in interspace.
Yeah.
There's a final space that we don't know about.
Alpha space.
Alpha's okay. I feel like we got into that. I don't think this is how she becomes Nightfall. I think the Nightfall timeline is separate now. I was disappointed that Nightfall just amounted to episode 7, and that's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think any of this goes into what happened before, because Gary does, like, the universe does survive, although Earth is taken. So I don't know. Mooncake is still trapped to the thing, and presumably is alive, although he could have had his life force sucked out of him, but probably is alive. Yeah, and then little Kato is almost killed by Gary. Not
by accident.
Yeah. I don't know how I felt about that, but yeah, he gets flung into space, and Lord Commander insinuates that he's dead, along with Mooncake and Quinn. But
well, the idea is that everyone's meant to be like maybe partially almost dead. So in my mind, it makes each individual death less probable, if that makes sense, because it's like, okay, everyone's supposed to be gone,
right?
So it's like, okay, individually looking at them, what are the chances that actually is true?
Yeah. Little Kato probably would be alive. He didn't have, he almost got revenge on Lord Commander, is about to kill him.
His entire character is, I want revenge.
Yeah, and he didn't even get to, I mean, nobody got to kill him, but like, I feel like he had the most right to, honestly.
I like Lord Commander's, get on with it already.
No, I wrote that into him like, honestly, he's a pretty great villain. Like, he's kind of bad. Just like, yeah, come on, let's go. Like, I'm ready.
That might have been his best line, yeah.
Yeah, that was really pretty good.
Other little Kato thing, Gary, I don't see a kid anymore. I see a man cat.
They're not cats! Oh my god!
And he's not a man. He hasn't matured at all.
I know, that was the other thing.
He's a man cat, jeez.
He hasn't really, I mean, he's awesome at what he does. Like, he clearly can handle himself, but I don't think he's grown.
Like that.
Yeah, he was already like that, so it's not really a growth. So, Gary's wrong.
Okay. I don't have a lot to say about little Kato in this. I know people like that character, but I think
honestly, I find him to be very annoying.
Little Kato?
Yeah, at this point, I find him annoying.
Okay, I just think nothing of him.
I just think he needs more time.
That's the problem. He's a nothing character.
Right? Yeah, I'm
do stuff that isn't revenge.
Yeah, if he's coming back for season 2, let's get some characterization there. Not dead Gary, who John called this last podcast. We basically just played the montage. We basically just played the openings from the previous episodes pretty straight, and we played them, and then he's floating in space. He seemingly gets saved by a ship at the end. So, I mean, we can't kill Gary. I guess it's a show.
It would have been so much more ballsy. I would have loved that. Like, I would have respected Gary more if he'd actually died. I know that sounds awful, but like, then like his earnestness and his willingness to do anything to like do what he thought was right would have hit home stronger. I feel if that little scapegoaty thing didn't. And it's like, it's ambiguous. What's the light source? But yeah, it seems pretty implied that maybe someone's going to come save him. And honestly, we could have speculated that someone would come save him even without that in there. Like, it still would have been open. But I feel like now it's like, really for sure he's not dead, and I don't like that. I feel like that's a missed opportunity.
Okay, well, we'll talk about the specific ending. I feel like the obvious response to what you said is that Gary gets his self-sacrifice scene, and that's his intent. He has that like really interestingly animated scene of him like basically dying with the, he seals up the hole, and then he's like, let's take the ship into Lord Commander's ship, and he's he makes the sacrifice. He's basically killing himself. I don't know how much it matters to his specific arc if he actually ends up dead.
I mean, it gives it a lot more weight because there are like, these serious mortal consequences versus if he gets saved, it's kind of like, oh, he did a cool thing and now he can do more cool things. And I guess it proves something. But like, I don't know. I feel like things matter a lot when like you put your life on the line and you do die, like you legit die. Like, I feel like there's a lot of weight there that if he gets rescued, I mean, like, I don't want him to die because I don't like him. I just feel like if they did just leave it at him floating in space, we could have argued that maybe he would have been saved anyway, but it would have been like ambiguous enough that we'd be kind of uncertain, be like, dude, what if he's just going to be dead floating in space? That's like so heavy. And I would have liked that because that's a risk that not a lot of other shows do. And I think that's one of the things that kind of would make the show stand out more.
Yeah, I guess let's talk about the last scene because we get all the openings played from the beginning. Briefly on that, I'm not, I guess, satisfied how that turned out. I think it was gorgeous in this episode, the way they had a montage of it. Within the specific episode, I thought it was wonderful, but I just don't think it was really worth it to do that every single episode of the season. I think it's a decent risk to take, and like it was an interesting narrative device. Looking back, it doesn't seem satisfying.
It doesn't seem like a narrative device to me so much as at this point it seems like a shtick.
Well, it was
because you expect it
cold
every
open.
episode.
Like you got like one or two jokes, like an opening monologue, and then you enter into the rest of the show. And like this is just a way of like incorporating that into the actual plot, which is an interesting like bonus. But like, I think the point of those at the end of the day is just to insert an extra one or two jokes into the show.
Yeah, and if that's the thought, I think it's unsuccessful because it was always much less compelling than the action itself. So I think we should, like this episode, we started with the genuine cold open within the realm of the plot, and I thought that was the most successful opening of the show. Yeah. So I like that they took some sort of interesting risk like that. I don't think we should bring that type of thing back. But and then we do this thing where we hold on the shot of Gary's dying body floating in space for 20 seconds, very reminiscent of episode 6, the end with the reaction to
with little Kato.
Yeah. And then we get the flash of light from some sort of ship coming to save Gary at the end. What do we think of holding the shot there for so long?
Look, my reaction to this, I would have liked it if he gave his last breath, he died, and we hold on that shot. But that's interrupted by the whole going into his mind and like having the conversation with his dad. But that's important because having that ruins the impact of the holding on him for 20 seconds because from that conversation, we already know he's not going to die. So what's the point of holding on his corpse?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And he even like looks in the direction like away from his dad spirit. So like he's choosing to live.
Yeah, and so that was my issue with the cliffhanger side of it. Like, take the risk of like showing us Gary actually being dead, but like he gave his final breath, and we got like 5 seconds of it before we go into the hallucination scene. So like it didn't have the impact that you would have hoped to get out of something with such a dark tone as this. And so by that time, that one frame of a cliffhanger shows up at the end, like, what is this? So that part of it. I do want to give like a actual theory thing because that hallucination scene, like it's all white, and we've actually seen that background before, back in episode 3, I think, when he's also about to die. The sun is going around him, and that's when he's having all these flashbacks to the point that even the mooncake caterpillar is talking to him at some point. So, like, I do wonder if it's actually a situation where he is an immortal. Like, is it possible that he can't die, or like there
Guardians of the Galaxy?
But then there's no consequences. Like, there's nothing he'll be in danger in. And why would we care?
I think it's a visual representation, but
Yeah, but I guess the point that it's a motif that's been reoccurring. Like, I think there's also another episode that this happened. So it's happened like 3 times. So just the fact that it keeps repeating that kind of style makes me think that there's something else going on here that's preventing Gary from dying.
It's also a thematic thing with his dad. But it is a good point. It could be something. I liked the end of the episode as a denouement to this specific finale. I mean, I've already said how I'm kind of unsatisfied with this as a conclusion to the season as a whole, but looking at this as just like a unit episode, I think this is a really great way to end it, with that holding on to that shot, like a blink of hope at the end after such depressing, like all seeing everyone we love die. I think is really successful within this current episode. I think it was a good choice. It was I guess less impactful since we'd seen the holding the shot thing before, but yeah, I don't know.
I don't agree with that though, because like I think if it had just left holding the shot without the final, light source coming in, that would have reinforced so many like that would have made so many things more strong, I feel, because that it does like completely mimic little Kato, just like sitting there at the ship, like, and just the weight of his dad dying, and like I feel like that would have, it's so reminiscent of it would have made that stronger. And the fact that every episode except for this one has that open of him, like, like we'd been speculating from the beginning, like, oh, someone's gonna rescue him. Like we'd been guessing that from the beginning. So if he had actually died, that would have like been such a big deal, because all those little moments I feel like would have like had a lot more impact, because it's like, oh my god, these really are like his last 5 minutes of life ever. Holy crap. But like now it's just, they just like, it was so on the nose to be like, oh, actually, and that really bums me out.
Right. I'd been calling for a subversion there for a long time. Like, we can't just play these openings straight where they're just going to lead to Gary floating in space and someone rescue him. And we didn't do that at all. It was played completely straight. I don't think that's a fault of this episode. I think this episode is presented very well. I do think for me, that's like, okay, these openings were nothing. Toss them out. But here I thought it was really good. And also I don't care if Gary's, if we have hope if Gary's alive, we have hope if Gary's dead. I don't know. It's like, it's thematic, with this episode. I feel like that's the bigger story. But I don't know. Your mileage may vary. We'll talk more about Gary's character arc. I guess let's get into the also h.u.e and Lord Commander are alive. We'll get to them. h.u.e lives forever. That's our one character.
I love h.u.e.
h.u.e is so good.
So please let him survive.
He's clear. He's in Gary's helmet.
As long as the helmet doesn't get smashed or something, I guess he's okay.
Yeah. And hopefully he's backed up. You got to back up your AIs, guys. Let's talk. We already talked about this King's Cross scene, the Harry Potter ending scene with Gary and his dad, and imported beer. And a
That's like the lamest highlights to Afterlife I can think of. We got lots of imported beer.
No, it would have been worse if we said we had IPAs.
Right. I think this is
IPAs are great.
Look, this is a great satire of white guys. Like this, that's what that was. That's like, this is their heaven.
God.
I'm telling you, it's wonderful. But I think it's a self-aware line too. And, perilous journey full of death and heartbreak. Which way to Little Kato, Mooncake, Quinn, and he goes back. Mel didn't like it.
No.
Yeah. Alex, you said you didn't like it because it took away the stakes of the thing that happened later.
Yeah. And it immediately lets you know, okay, so he's not dying then. There's something else that's going to happen. Like, I would have liked to have been left with a feeling of, oh crap, they actually did it. They actually killed everybody. Yeah. But they don't give you that feeling. So it just dampens the mood of the ending there. So like their interactions are fine. I like the dad in this show. Like whenever he shows up, he's got good lines. Ron Perlman does a great job voicing him. But yeah, just the placement of the scene being right here in this moment and not keeping that for maybe, I don't know, the beginning of season 2 or something like that's my real issue with it rather than the scene itself.
Michelle, your take on the Gary dying?
Gary dying or him talking to his dad?
Well, yeah, like, and he's so this is the trope of the lead character dies and then comes back to life. I think that's what we're doing here. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was all really great, actually. And I mean, like, I love that he like took the ship and like ran it into Commander's ship, and I feel like that sequence.
Oh yeah, that part's amazing.
How about really just the part with his dad specifically?
I mean, it was really distracting because I was just like getting Harry Potter vibes the whole time, but like I don't really think that's their fault. I like that he's given a choice. And I think that combined with him just like floating in space, and he's not like opening his eyes or anything, so it is a little ambiguous. He doesn't have oxygen, so like, oh, maybe he'll just die anyway, even if he does want to come back. All of that I thought was pretty good. It's just like that very ending shot.
Okay.
Yeah, on the nose.
And we talked about that. I think it is their fault that this gives us Harry Potter vibes. I have no specific fault with this scene. I think it was like well written. It was well executed and beautifully animated. This scene encapsulates my problems with this finale though, and that it's this finale is just Harry Potter plus Rogue One plus your typical season finale. Everything's very familiar. Nothing is specific. That's my big problem with this whole season and this finale is that we're just doing the tropes. This is just the best of finale tropes in this finale, and nothing really felt inventive here. There's one part that I thought was a subversion, which I'm going to talk about next. But
about Quinn?
Yeah, but it's other. There's everything was just pretty typical finale stuff. Doesn't mean it wasn't great. It's like there's a reason we do these things so many times. It's because they're epic. They're wonderful. But I just found everything to be vague. There wasn't a lot of details. Yeah, Mel, what do you think of that? Like, do you think too many tropes devices here?
Yeah, and it's interesting because like some of them I picked out, some of them I didn't think about until you mentioned them just now. Ultimately everything is just doing everything else, and everything else is just doing Gilgamesh if you want to get like super macro about it.
That's Mel's most common phrase.
But in the sense here, like yes, like it very much was doing Rogue One, was doing bits of Harry Potter, was doing bits of even Blade Runner almost a little bit in New York. Like, it's like it borrowed from a lot of things here. And I think the reason it stands out so much is because in the past it hasn't. Like up until this point, it's been like there's been very distinct scenes to this show and very distinct stuff. And this just very much felt like a typical like amalgamation of like several different giant sci-fi moments, because it was trying to do the big epic finale where up until this point it had done like these quirky weird things, and I do think the tone, interesting as it is to say, I guess the tone of it shifted when Avocado died, right? Because I think up until that point it was quirky. They were doing kind of these monster of the week type episodes, and then at that point everything got very less episodic, more focused on the arc, at which point it became more typically epic sci-fi. And it thrived on the quirkiness of the beginning of the season. So when it tried to do this epic sci-fi, it felt derivative.
Yeah, and Mel, I think you're right that it's a problem. It's an issue. I don't know problem, but it's a result of the shift that the show made after episode 6. In that this lack of specificity is just so rampant throughout these last 4 episodes. I mean, I loved last episode 9, but it's all there's nothing there. It's all very surface level. It's kind of like cliche lines with Gary and Quinn. Same with episode 8. There wasn't a lot of narrative weight behind that episode. And I think again in this finale. So like, I mean, looking back over the season, I'll talk about it more later, but, I feel like that's my big thing is, narrative complexity. I think again, we didn't really get that in the finale.
Yeah.
You agree?
Oh yeah, no, for sure. It was very much about like, it was the most plot based episode I think that we had so far. And plot, I mean, like just pure on action, cause and effect.
Yeah, there's a lot of event after event after event, and I feel like there's one thing we kind of slowed down first. That's a good segue into this. My hottest take maybe of the whole show. Are we ready for this? I thought the best part of the finale, the best scene of the finale, was the Gary Quinn kiss scene.
Whoa, that's a pretty hot take.
So here's why.
That is the hottest of takes.
The hottest of takes. Not because I cared about them kissing. I absolutely did not. But, I've been banging this drum. We are doing a Gary Quinn subversion. This is leading up to something that is not going to be this typical stupid romance arc. And last episode was the typical stupid romance arc. But finally, I think we subverted it because Quinn is the hero. Gary is not the hero.
Yeah,
Quinn gets to do the action scene.
No, she literally says we're both the hero. Yeah, that's not a subversion.
Yeah,
it is. It is.
Be like we're both awesome. Wink. That's
the whole sacrifice yourself for the main character, so the main character doesn't have to die. That's a very common thing.
There's that part, but at least this scene when they're talking about who gets to take the bomb, and Quinn's asserting that she's going to do it, and then she does it, and Gary's like, I thought I was the hero, but it was you, and Quinn's like, no, it's both of us. I didn't expect this. I didn't expect us to do anything like this. Not that this is the most revolutionary thing, but you don't get these. You don't get this in like your typical brainless action movie. You don't get the female lead doing this type of thing. I thought this was at the very least intended to be a subversion by the show. Definitely think that's where they're coming from, and I bought it. I did. I was kind of trying to grasp onto anything, any kind of sort of narrative thing I can hold on to here, and I think this is the best Gary Quinn thing we did all show.
Yeah, I mean, no, and the thing that I guess that makes me not necessarily like it, but like okay with all of it is that it's very much on her terms, which again is not the most subversive or new thing because you see that happen a lot. Like it's a trope where you've got this bumbling dude and who thinks very little of himself in terms of like her, and then she like takes the initiative and makes the first move, like honest, like that we've seen before here. Like there was a lot of justification to Quinn's actions because she says, like this is literally what I've been trying to do since the beginning, so let me do it. And he says, okay. So there's very much like that I buy. Like that I think was earned with Quinn's character just because of how forceful and very on top of her own story and her own backstory she's been since the beginning. So in that sense, like, yeah, like, and when she says is like, like, no, we're both the hero, like that to me is subversive in the fact that like for Quinn, the character to say we're both the hero is I also think, a character move for her personally, just because of how very solo she's been up until now.
Yeah.
So it's not even just saying like, oh, I'm the hero, and saying, okay, Quinn is a hero. Yes. It's like, no, she's saying that, yes, like she's asserting that she's very aware that she's a hero. Like she doesn't need you to tell her that, but also saying like, no, like we're in this together. So all that I was on board with. Like at the very least, they did a good job with just building Quinn and giving her entire world independent of Gary. And essentially she was like, all right, yeah, I'll let you be a part of this.
Yeah, all of that.
I think that's a really good point.
Contrast this to Quinn in episode 4 when she's just shoving Gary aside to do everything on her own. Yeah. She says, I knew this was my life's work. If you really have feelings for me, let me see this through to the end. And, the thing that causes, like, Quinn to react romantically to Gary is Gary says, and Quinn Ergon, I will use every last breath to make sure you succeed. That's a real raw promise. We're paying off the real raw, finally. And that's the thing Quinn responds to is like, Gary not being this douche canoe that he's been this whole series.
Douche canoe. I haven't heard that in a while.
No, I got in trouble for saying douche canoe. That was one of the first things I ever got bleeped on. I remember
douche nozzle.
You were inspired.
Oh, that's a good one.
You guys forget this was episode 2 or 3 or something. They said douche canoe. I love that. I will use every last breath to make sure you succeed. That's what Quinn responds to their kiss. Hell yeah, more of that when you come back. Don't die on me. And then they're both like spouting like these typical lines on purpose. Funny. I thought I was going to be the hero, but it's you. No, it's both of us. Always has been. Yeah. And then the score behind this, what I assume is the Gary Quinn theme is playing.
The Gary Quinn theme.
And it plays again when they're talking at the end with Quinn about to die or go in the final space or whatever. I found that just super emotionally effective. The music behind that repeated there. I kind of really did connect most with the Gary Quinn stuff in the finale. I was shocked. I thought it was done well. It wasn't the big subversion I was hoping for. They still did a pretty played for straight romance arc, but we give Quinn this big thing. At least in this scene. Now let's argue about whether they take it away when we focus on Gary and not Quinn, like going into the portal, and that Quinn ends up sacrificing herself for Gary, as Alex says. God, Quinn says, I'm not coming back. We've lost the Earth, but I can still save you. Goodbye, Gary. I'll miss you. And then she opens the bomb, closes the breach. On one hand, what Alex said, right? Sacrificing herself for the main character. On the other hand, she saves the world, or she doesn't because the world gets sucked in, but she saves the universe. She's the successful action. She completed her life's work. She closed the breach. She's the successful action hero. Gary didn't do shit. I could have used it, given a little bit more of an impact, like the closing of the breach. This is the culmination of the show. But I do think it was successful in that, Quinn closed the breach. She did it.
Right?
Yay.
Yep.
Reactions?
Yay.
I don't know.
No. She did what and that's what she says too, even no matter how much, I think it's, pointless. She says, oh, I can't save the Earth, but I can still save you. And she does it. Yeah. So good for her.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I really like that scene with them talking too. I thought this was, this and last episode, some pretty successful romantic stuff between the two of them, despite the fact that we were pretty biased against Gary Quinn this whole time. So I think that
by this stage, Gary has become a more understanding person, so the romance rolls off better.
Yeah, we'll tie the bow on top of Gary Quinn in a second. But let's get through the rest of the finale. We even talked a lot about Lord Commander. So we learn.
Man, what a disappointment, eh?
Oh my god.
Oh, that guy.
Well, okay. So I think I mean,
he was disappointed. Not we're disappointed in the character.
Okay, yeah, he was very disappointed. He sees the hand passing over him, takes the Earth instead of him, and he's like, yeah. So he's the big story payoff with Lord Commander is that he's been chosen by the Titans, and he wants to become a Titan. The Titans have promised him that he will become a Titan. And
wasn't that one of the weird theories
when did the Titans
around?
promise him that? He's just got a big head. They didn't say anything. He
does have a very large
head.
head.
Cracked up idea that he's chosen, but he has no indication.
Let's clarify.
Yeah. With him.
The Lord Commander according to the unreliable narrator, the Lord Commander, he says that he was chosen to become a Titan.
No,
yes.
That's ridiculous.
I just think this whole thing is and I actually I think it's interesting because it's I like the fact that they haven't explored it. It's just we know he got infected in some way by Final Space, and this is a delusion he's got in his head that he was chosen and that this is going to be a thing, and then that this is what he was destined to do. At this point, I don't think it was the Titans, possessing him, trying to get him to open Final Space. I literally just think he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And now this has become his sole focus and the only thing that he can think about. And I think that's a lot more interesting than, the Titans,
sure.
Have used him and want to use him for something. No, it's literally just this dude got blasted in the face with some hardcore Final Space.
Right, which is what Gary says. He says it was a mistake. Yeah,
and it makes sense that he's this crazy person because earlier when they were explaining what Final Space is, the Infinity Guard, I think I made the comment this sounds cult-like almost oh, we want the light, and this is pretty much just a cult leader oh, okay, I'm convinced this has to happen. It has to be this way, and the end is gonna happen like this, and so it turns out it's wrong, and now it's just okay, well, what do I do now? As all cult members, if they stay alive, or have to face at some point.
Yeah, that cult, Alex, part of the cult. This to me was the most successful Lord Commander mythology thing we did. I didn't like the. He's the John Goodspeed's assistant thing. We'll talk about that again. But I think him thinking he's going to become a Titan, that's cool. That's the type of big mythology thing I wanted. And last podcast, Alex was Quinn's going to become a Titan. I'm yes. And she might become a Titan, actually. But she's going to.
No, actually, I think it's 2 episodes ago I said, do you think Lord Commander is going to be a Titan?
Yeah, that's my favorite thing they've done with the Titans. Other than that, the Titans are nonsense. I do like the Titan hand taking the Earth. But less successful for me is anything relating to the reveal in episode 8 with Gary's dad, because I don't get it. I don't get what Lord Commander knows and does not know about Gary's involvement in this, because he has this line, I want you to experience the same pain you put me through, a slow, painful death, which to me invokes that he knew that Gary caused him to be this way, but I don't think that's what that line does mean.
No, I don't think he was surprised. He didn't make the connection that he was
right,
the
because
son
then
of his friend.
you're right, because then he's like, John Godspeed's son. That changes
nothing. Yeah.
And you know why it changes nothing is because there's a nothing reveal. It isn't. That's why Lord Commander's
You're
underwhelmed.
so right. It is nothing.
He was the Lord Commander is us. That's me. This has nothing to do with anything. We didn't know this character existed before episode 8. And, we saw again, they tried to, like, I think that's the type of, like, lack of narrative impact, like, this season. Like, that, they tried to do what they could with it in this episode, but it already was nothing. And, I do like how they played it. And he's like, that reaction, stop calling me that. The person died the day I was chosen. But again, Gary, like, in some time loop fashion, beat him up and kind of, to a certain extent, caused this to happen. And this is, I don't know.
But see, isn't this a subversion?
Of what? Of
that we introduce this huge twist and then it doesn't end up at mattering.
Yeah, it's a subversion of bad narrative. Yeah, okay, there you go. But yeah, I don't know. I love him talking with Gary and his like the Gary yes, just the Gary. That was
good.
Yeah, and like he's great. Like he's continually well acted. I don't know. We didn't really do anything with that character.
Well, I think he served his purpose as being both menacing and at times funny. And
okay, yeah, he's definitely got the menacing from him. We already talked about that line with "get it over with." Yeah, that was all good.
Yeah, so like he serves his purpose as a character. It's just the story around him hasn't been very strong so far. But considering that we haven't killed him off, well, I guess we're gonna see more of him. So that's good, I guess.
Yeah, I don't mind bringing Lord Commander back next season as the villain. I thought he was really, really good, one of the stronger elements of the season. But, it's almost like he's a Gary origin story, almost like, maybe that was just supposed to be a gag, him and Gary beating him up, and that's not supposed to be relevant at all, but we placed a lot of importance on that's almost like the Gary Quinn. Gary fucked up with the origins of something, and now we have to deal with that. Anyway, yeah, his face off with Gary, he knocks Gary out into space. Yeah, Mel, what's your final take potentially on Lord Commander as the villain here?
Commander, I think he's got to come back just because he's at this point. He just feels like he's, an iconic bit about this show. I don't know how it's going to work with his continued decaying. But I think at this point with, when you get to season breaks and something like this, like anything can happen. Like you could claim something happened here with Final Space that, did X, Y, and Z to him. I mean, that's the nature of all this open-endedness, is that you can really just claim anything. And for the most part, people will believe it because,
Or we can just stay from where we left off. He has Mooncake. Yeah, Mooncake is his source of power, so he's going to stay alive as long as he keeps Mooncake.
I guess the intent is that he thought Mooncake would heal him through Final Space because him becoming a Titan would grant him immortality. It's not that Mooncake's power necessarily heals him. And maybe I'm not sure if that's what they're intending. Again, lack of specificity, but him becoming a Titan would prevent him from dying in a way.
Well, the other thing is Gary gets to him, he has a gun, he chooses not to shoot him and waits for him to grab the cords, and then he gets that weird electricity power so he can hover. So he does seem to be a little more powerful now than he was. I just wish Gary had the hindsight to just shoot him the first chance he got. Because by the time he actually did, he was stronger and he could do a little force field thing.
Yeah, I don't know if the temporary powers of Final Space would heal him, but yeah, he does seem very sick at the end still. But he's also thwarted. And I guess his best moment is when he's disappointed with the hand passing over him, taking Earth. That's to me, that's I think what I'll remember from this finale the most. Is just the shot of the Titan hand taking Earth. I feel like that's just a really striking visual.
But by the way, the production quality on this episode was excellent as usual. But that one scene where the hand is going over the Earth, did you guys find it weird? The music was so loud that you could barely hear what Lord Commander was saying.
No, I didn't notice. Honestly.
I did notice that. I think it was very, very intentional in order to ramp up that this is this huge moment. And it's I think you could argue that they're maybe too reliant on the music or certain visuals in these dramatic sequences. I found it effective. They clearly had an intent to ramp up that to the max and have that be the number one scene of the season.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I was just a little annoyed. I was wait, what is he saying?
He gets drowned out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We'd all be open to seeing Lord Commander back.
Yeah, I like him.
Sure.
I guess theory is that Gary gets Mooncake back, tries to open Final Space to go after Quinn. Lord Commander latches onto him, also goes into Final Space. Yeah, you could see something like that.
Yeah.
One of the two of them taking the other one.
But also, who has the ship? Like, who's the new character that we're going to throw into this
The
wrench?
ship was destroyed.
New character.
Yeah, well, other random things to finish up. Galaxy 1 is destroyed. Yeah, rip. Some people seem to be emotionally attached to the Galaxy 1. I was not very emotionally attached to Galaxy 1.
I like that they had that like extended sequence of just all the different rooms being destroyed, because like we did spend a lot of time in those spots, like with the characters, and it was kind of like, oh man, it really is the end of an era. So I thought that was a good decision choice to just like highlight all that destruction.
It would have hurt a lot more if Hugh stayed on the ship.
I know. I'm really glad he got there.
He was the soul of that ship.
For a second there, you're like, oh, and then it was like, hello, Gary. And I was like, sick, cool.
Yeah.
Hugh. Good.
Yeah. And the cookie thing with the cookie that really does suck, Gary. Yeah. So that was a good ending to that too. We had the shield eating hive.
That was an interesting like idea. I liked it. I thought it was cool.
I was especially intrigued by like when they actually break into the ship and Gary's alone. Like they look kind of 3D animated against the 2D animated Gary. So like that was just an interesting visual look of them invading the ship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was interesting. Those are the parts of the finale I connected the least with, the kind of the generic actiony parts, fighting the hive, Gary individually fighting them off. The Gary like going to crash the ship in, but it was all very fast paced, very
well. I will say Gary crashing the ship in, like he's like pulling the metal out of his body, like he's fighting with Hugh, like that sequence. I felt very strong. Like
me too.
Like it's him like making his last stand. He has to like wipe blood from his mouth.
Yeah, and I thought that was like tremendously animated as well. Like he had like a really like deranged last effort look to him.
Yeah,
like he's like, I've seen that look. I don't think you should do what I think you're doing, but like, yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, I love that scene.
We also start the episode with ejecting the Lightfold engine and exploding it. Boomtown, says Hugh.
Boomtown, that was a really good line.
Oh yeah, when you're just like Boomtown.
Yeah, why does Hugh have so many great lines in this episode?
Hugh's just really good as a character.
Hugh is the MVP of the show.
Absolutely, I would agree with that. Honestly, like Kevin's my number one, but still.
Interesting. And I was gonna say potentially Kevin would be the MVP of season 1, but. Hugh, open to Hugh. Yeah, I like exploding the thing. We don't have to deal with this stupid war. Like we're getting like that's what they set up last time. Like bang, we're doing this. That was like right away, and it's like we're going into all this action here. We're doing important stuff. I guess I have these other lines with the hive ships eating through the shield. Shield integrity 79%. That's like a B-. We're still good.
That's amazing.
63%. Oh crap, that's a D at best. Yeah, that was good. Okay, so. I think potentially hit on everything here. Yeah, so.
I'm still kind of like thinking about the Gary Quinn thing. I don't know. I guess it like did work for me more than I thought it ever could. And that's what I'm like trying to internally struggle with.
Yeah, well, let's talk about this, the season overall, because I think season 1 was incredible. I think this was, at the very least, one of the most well-animated, well-produced first seasons of animation in a long time. I think that it's just a remarkable first season. First seasons aren't typically very good, on shows, or at the very least, they're not nearly as good as subsequent seasons, and this was already really strong. I have 2 big complaints with the season that I think really need to be addressed if, in order to achieve that next level of Final Space, go into the next level of Final Space.
Are there levels of Final Space, or is Final Space the top level?
I think there could be more.
Got to go deeper. Number one is Gary and Quinn. I think that this really held the season back. Is the fact that this relationship didn't connect with me and us, and potentially some. And I've seen this criticism even on Reddit. Like, I was surprised that this wasn't just our feminist perspective, right? Like, this is something that all didn't. Well, everyone should have the feminist perspective, but like, this is something that it didn't necessarily resonate with a lot of people. Gary Quinn, I don't think it was like as successful as the season really relied upon it. These last 2 seasons, it started from this terrible place. It never really recovered. Yeah,
but again, I mean, I think that's part of why this episode worked better for them. At least like in terms of the smooch moment, right? Because one of the things we talked about is that, a lot of their interactions is Gary kind of being himself and not really changing, and Quinn just like getting to know him more and coming around. And like you were saying, Dylan, the reason she kisses him, it's because he honored her request. Yeah. And that's like that. Romance aside, that's like a good thing to do. If you really care about somebody, honoring what they want is a big deal. Like, that's a big thumbs up. And so because the smooch happened as a result of that, I was honestly pretty okay with it, because I think that's a much better place for it to come to than like oh, you were right about everything. Okay. It's like, thank you. I want this. Give this to me. And he did. Like, that's a really good step in their relationship, honestly. I hope there's more of that moving forward.
Yeah, look, these last 2 episodes were phenomenal with Gary and Quinn. I thought they're both tremendous. I think episode 4 was another great episode with the 2 of them. The 3 like really well executed, non-problematic episodes with the 2 of them. I mean, this isn't necessarily like a going forward, let's break Gary and Quinn up. It's more like this really held the season back. Outside of 4, 9, and 7. I mean, you had 5, which almost ruined because of it. You had a 1 and 2, and like starting from this creepy place that Gary did. I think not great in hindsight. I think that. Yeah, I just think we so often said this episode is good, but Gary and Quinn, and that's like, to me, it's clearly one of the problems with the season looking back on it.
Well, it's also something to look forward to. Like, if we consider this like, oh, they're starting the relationship from scratch, it's good. It's going to be bumpy no matter how they decide to portray it. But now we're at this stage, so going forward, it's from more of a position of respect. So, like, hopefully their interactions will be more palatable. And so, like, if the standard becomes what we've seen in those last 2 episodes, I think it's very easy to warm up to these 2 being together. But yeah, just like over the course of the season, having to see it progress through the bumps and grinds, like it was a bit tough to watch at times. But yeah, I'm okay with Gary and Quinn going forward, especially if we keep the whole having respectful conversations without screens being in between, because that's what bothered me a lot in early seasons. Like, Gary would only be honest with Quinn like through separation or like through screens. So like, here is actually face to face. So like, if we have that kind of basis, then it's more easy to see them having chemistry, being able to throw jokes and emotional weight at each other in a believable manner.
Yeah, I would absolutely not continue with Gary and Quinn into season 2, and that's someone who said that they were my favorite part of this finale. I think they're absolutely tremendous the last 2 episodes. It would be a huge mistake to keep going with that romance just from like a show design perspective. Like, you don't double down on your weakest element. If you can all objectively look at season 1, this is clearly one of the biggest problems with the season. Just cut it, please. Like, you had so many other strong elements. Just don't do this again. Don't give the potential for this to go badly again. Completely cut that. Like, do something else with Quinn.
Well, I guess the issue with cutting Quinn out is if you do that, then what is Gary's aim? Like, well, what is his driving force? If
you have to find a new one.
You can do anything at this point in the show. It's so open.
He could have a better one, because like Quinn, her thing. I mean, that's the one thing I'll say. Like, the one like downside to the Quinn Gary thing is that she made saving the universe just about him and not the universe by saying, well, the Earth's gone, but like, at least I can save you. It's like, Quinn, okay, yeah, you like him, but like also everyone else. But I mean, if you separate them, hopefully they'll both have goals outside of each other to really buckle down on, which seems way more realistic. And I think it would strengthen their relationship to have that not be the center of their, drive and existence. I think that is kind of holding them back. So,
I mean, you don't need to like physically separate them, or even, they can be friends. I don't care what, like, do whatever. Just don't.
Well, they're already physically separated.
Right. They're different planes of existence. Don't double down. Please don't do this. Okay. The number 2 problem with the season is what I won't go into it again. The thing I've been talking about all podcast, the lack of narrative complexity. Everything's very superficial. Almost every character on the show, we would say, like, just doesn't have depth of characterization. Little Kato is the best example, but outside of Gary, who kind of did, and we didn't even talk about the Gary character moments from this finale. That was, I guess, the other thing. But Quinn wasn't that deep of a character. She had this one thing. Everyone else was kind of joke characters. Lord Commander had no depth to it. Just give some depth, give some weight, give more serialization to the show. I think these last 4 episodes were very isolated and didn't have anything to do with each other. Nightfall didn't go anywhere. I was unsatisfied with the extent that we did with her in episode 7. 8 had such cool visual setup, but just ended up being this kind of typical look inside Gary, and
I'll say that's the one thing I disagree with. Episode 8 felt very complex. Like, we're throwing in the whole time travel issue. We're introducing Titans being important to the storyline to make sense.
I think it could have been. I just don't think it did anything.
Well, okay, fine.
I feel like the Titans.
I feel it did.
Yeah, but the Titans were thrown in kind of like, oh, here's the plot thing, right? So now this is what you have to do because we told you about the Titans. Now, I will say I do like that. The Lord Commander's initiative, like his goal was to be Titan. Like at least like they tied that back together, so it wasn't just like a one-off episode thing introducing the Titans. Like they actually came back for a reason that actually made sense. So I liked that at least was given to the Titans.
Yeah, the Titans, I guess, given that they came out of nowhere and this ridiculous device, kind of weren't the worst. And the episode 8 thing, the reveal, I already talked about it. It's so nothing. But yeah, I don't know. Regardless of any specific episode, just more specifics, more narrative complexity. Kind of, I do think that the writing held the show back this season. I think that everything past the writing was absolutely incredible with this show. And if you're going to point to faults, it would clearly be on the narrative front. But I mean, it's not like it was bad. I think, and it was the first season of a show, and given that it's the first season and 10 episodes is hugely impressive. Yeah,
like the thing is, watching this through the season, I always had in the back of my mind, like, what if this is like just like a mini series? Like, what if it is all contained? And like they weren't sure if they had a second season. But judging from the finale, it seems like they very obviously were banking on a second season due to that the obvious cliffhanger. So like when you have that in mind, like okay, they're planning seasons in advance, then it becomes a little more justifiable to say, okay, they're dropping this here. It's not going to pay off in this season, but there's potential to bring that back in the next season. Obviously, that hurts the season that you're in the moment, but at least it's slightly more justifiable when you have more certain the fact that, okay, that they seem to have some kind of plan beyond this season.
Right. I'm very much looking at this from a season unit perspective. I don't really care about extending things into season 2. I don't think they definitely didn't have a season 2 order when they're writing it. I
think writing wise too functions best if you think about it as if you don't.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the weaker parts of this finale here, was that part of it did seem like there was an expectation that, okay, like these are things that will be resolved. Like to a point it was fine, and then when you got past the Dumbledore scene, it was like, okay, like you're writing with the intention of continuing this, and I think that weakens some of the punch here.
Right, because you're like, oh, well, just wait till there's more. But it's like, well, this is what we have, though. So,
yeah,
what do we do with it?
I think this finale was written with just the season in mind. I think that clearly they left some things open, but they didn't know they had episodes beyond this, or did or don't. And I think everything here works as a final unit, and maybe they would have not done the light and killed Gary with the last 5 seconds if they knew it was just a miniseries. But other than that, I think it kind of all worked on its own. Like I think it was just an individual this epic dramatic unit that they were presenting. I'm not sure how much is in mind towards season 2. Maybe like taking the Earth, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I feel like it could be a completely different show in season 2.
I do actually think like Quinn becoming Nightfall is actually a thing that we could be following.
Yeah, I honestly think that is still a thing that's definitely in the air.
Yeah, I mean, they could do that. I think given what we've gotten, that was not what they're intending, but who knows? They could, that's the type of thing they could pick up on now that's, if they do get more episodes, right? Like they could just, continue these plot lines that they kind of, threw off to the side. Yeah, I don't know. I like, to me, the Nightfall thing clearly is not intended to be a sequel hook. Like, I think that most things aren't intended. Even Gary, like, not being dead. I don't know. Like, that to me works as a wrap on it, but, we'll see. I'd be pretty interested in like season 2 in Final Space. Like we go into Final Space. like to save Earth.
Yeah.
Gotta go there.
Ooh, what if it was like, but from Quinn as the main character instead of Gary, so we mostly follow her journey on the other side?
Yeah, I think that would be phenomenal if we just did like like we did a BoJack most recent season where we just didn't see BoJack for a while. Like we just like Quinn's just the main character the first 4 episodes. Gary's not even on the screen, and then eventually we see we don't follow Gary in our universe. We only see him when he comes in the final space. Like that type of thing could be cool. Yeah, you can do anything. There's so many possibilities. So we're very very interested to see potentially more from Final Space and
yes.
I'm surprised you haven't mentioned as a flaw the fact that we had barely any mooncake in the second half.
I was gonna wonder if you guys were like, because you. I mean, I don't know about Mel, but I know Dylan and Alex, you both really like mooncake. Like when he was like making pain sounds and being dragged onto the thing, did your heart hurt a lot?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, see, I felt sad that like at the end, but I almost felt angry that he's just left in the beam. Like that's our final shot of him.
Save him.
Yeah, it's like, come on, he deserves a little better than that. Like, either like let him escape or just kill him off. I don't know, but like, don't leave him in this limbo. But yeah, and just in like in a season perspective, like I feel like in the beginning, I did do a rewatch fairly recently, and like yeah, in the first couple of episodes, because it is just Gary and Mooncake, Mooncake has a lot more time to shine, to be cute, and have like all his noises, but also be a menacing creature. But like once we introduced all the other cast members, like you got Avocado, you got Quinn, you got Tribore, you got k.v.n having a bigger role, so that kind of pushed Mooncake off to the side, and like it didn't really give him as much. He was only pulled out when he needed to blow things up, like oh, we need you to push this laser to the moon, or oh, we need you to bring the knife to the fight with Lord Commander's ship.
That's true.
That's
very true.
So yeah, like the show says, hey, you're not a weapon, okay? But in the second half, they only pull him out to be used as a weapon.
Power.
Yeah. Mooncake, much less. That's all we talked about in the beginning of the podcast, and now we barely talked about Mooncake in this one. Yeah, I mean, I don't really care about that from an overall. Like, I had bigger fish to fry than the use of Mooncake, but clearly that arc was not good. Like it ended. Like he's a wonderful character, but we didn't utilize him that well. But yeah, I'm much more concerned with like Gary Quinn and and like the writing and stuff like that. But
well, related to the writing, we had that moment in episode 8 where Bolo called Mooncake aside. It's like, oh hey, look, Mooncake, you need to know you were made from Final Space. But like that doesn't come to anything. Like what does Mooncake care where he came from?
Alex, to me, that is one of 10 moments that goes nowhere in this show. I think most things just don't go anywhere this season. Yeah, I mean, it's basically at Nightfall doesn't really go anywhere. It's like Nightfall's ship's gone. Where's she going? That doesn't go anywhere. Basically everything. Yeah, so that would be the criticism. That being said, I really enjoyed the individual units, and obviously it's an incredible feat this season overall. What's our bow tie on season 1 of Final Space, Alex? What's your final thoughts on Final Space?
Visually impressive, very funny at times. I think it succeeded in a comedic sense. It had its moments emotionally, although like it was more inconsistent on that front. Like I hesitate to compare it to Samurai Jack. Like that's another series that like started really strong and very visually impressive, but kind of went off the rails.
Oh God, yes, I agree so hard. Alex.
Yeah, well, yes. Like I don't want to say it to that because like the finale of this isn't bad, but it's like compared to Samurai Jack. But it's just like it does leave you thinking like, well, what happened? Like, where do we leave a lot of other things that went on, and also the whole like the female character being sacrificed at the end. But whatever. But yeah, like it was an experience to watch for sure. And the finale, like in the end, it made me feel things, and that's what I can ask from my media to like get a rise out of me. So like it was a very solid, impressive show, and I'm still excited to see season 2. And I rewatched this yesterday, the entire show, and I would be tempted to give it another rewatch because like it is just a fun show to watch.
Nice. The big difference that the most recent seasons in Samurai Jack is that got worse as that went along. Final Space got better. Yeah, it is, but yeah, definitely visually, and then some narrative problems behind it. Visually incredible. Yeah. Okay. Cool stuff, Alex. Michelle, final thoughts, Final Space.
I feel like one thing we didn't bring up music was really good. I mean, I know we say that a lot, but like there were a couple moments when Quinn and Gary are having segments, you hear the theme playing and it's like slower and it's orchestral. And I just like really love touches like that. I feel like it really sold some of those emotional beats really high for me. I really liked it. And I feel like that combined with the animation, like I was so ramped up like so many times this episode alone. I feel like that had a big part of why I was so invested. This was not a perfect episode, but this was not a perfect show. But I think, I don't know, after like episode 4, I was just like, I was honestly very excited to come back each time and see what was going to unfold. And even if like I had criticisms or things to praise, like it was always like fun and kind of messy. And I like the show for that. And I do think it's tried to take some risks. And I appreciate that, because some shows I feel like are too afraid and they want to be like safe. But I feel like this has the potential to be even more confident, being its own thing and taking more risks moving forward. So that's what I'm going to be watching for in the future.
Thumbs up. Yeah, good stuff. Mel, final thoughts.
I enjoyed it a lot. I mean, I think ultimately at the end, it like tied well together the kind of warring various emotional tones of comedy and drama and action, and the music was really, really good. That's probably one of my favorite parts, was like the crazy dramatic music in between bits. I do think, it did drop a lot of plot lines, or not necessarily drop them. It like didn't know where to put them, or the plans to ultimately expand them are in later seasons, which I still think is kind of a weak writing tactic. So that was kind of annoying. That being said, it's also that we had these ideas of what we wanted to see in our head, and that's not where they went with it. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just not what we were hoping to see. So I mean, I do think it was a little bit messy. It was a little bit less than formed in some places, but ultimately I think it was, it was really fun. I'd like to see more. I really do hope to see more of it. I thought it was really funny. So, yeah.
Yeah, thumbs up. Yeah, Mel brings up a good point in that I was wrong about almost everything that I said about what was going to happen in the future of the show.
Yeah.
Mainly giant subversion of Gary Quinn didn't happen, although we did get something this episode. The big thing was timelines. We didn't do that at all. So sorry for being really wrong about that. To conclude, to put a historical context on season 1 of Final Space, this is really, really good first season, better than almost all of our show's first seasons, like by a lot. The only shows that kind of hold any weight compared to how good this first season was would be, your Rick and Morty's, Mysticons, BoJack maybe, but it's better than almost everything else we cover as first season. First seasons are hard. Animation may be even harder than
I will say the consistency of episode quality is something that's impressive, because if we wanted to rank these episodes, like besides episode 5, if you give me any order, I would probably agree with you. Like if you think episode 1 is the best episode of the show, or if you think the finale is the best, like I wouldn't really put up much of a fight with you. And that's like impressive for a season of television. The fact that it all remained, despite the fact that it changes in pacing so much, but it manages to be funny and like hit its marks in almost all the episodes.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good episodes. I mean, for me, 9 for this episode, maybe 7. These are the highlights, but there's a lot of good ones here. And I also should say, Olin Rogers, first time showrunner, going straight into this, producing a season of this incredibly high quality is one of the most impressive things that we've seen in a long time. Like this is, I'm stunned that the show is as good as it is. It's a remarkable feat, and it's like if this is just him getting his footing, like wow, what could we get next from this show? It could be really something. So we'll hope to talk more about Final Space to come.
One final note. This show had a lot of diversity, because not only did it have an African-American female lead, but it also had a Hispanic representation, because apparently General Tribore Menendez.
What?
Yeah, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with that.
God. Does he sound? I mean, I don't know.
Alex, what was your reaction to that?
To me,
I was like, what? Okay.
that was my reaction.
It's like Rick Sanchez, right? Like you give him the last name, but it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I mean, I guess aliens, like, how do aliens on Earth work in this show? Like, how? Like, I want to need more details.
Well, also, there was just a lot of Mexican references because, like, Gary blows up a Mexican restaurant, apparently. He says sorry to Guadalupe. Also, what's his name? Whatever the Lord Commander's name is before, but like in the video, he's like, "Let's get some taquitos, bro." I guess people like Mexican food.
I don't know if taquitos counts. Like that's like a very white.
That's like a Tex-Mex type deal.
Yeah, sure. But like so there was some representation apparently.
Yeah,
the problem is now I feel obligated to like him more, but.
Yeah, dude, he's the token Hispanic character in the show. Yeah,
no obligation.
Yeah, the Tribore is the best. That's our final thought.
He's the best.
He's also the best. Let us know what you thought of the finale. We'll hopefully be back with some more discussion to come. Leave your comments overlyanimated.com. Leave it on YouTube. Thanks, guys, for supporting us on YouTube. Our Final Space podcast has gotten a lot of traction there. Leave your comments if you're listening to us on YouTube. Let us know what you thought, what you agreed with, what you disagreed with. What was the big moments here. If you enjoyed our Final Space coverage all season, best way to support us is via Patreon, patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thank you very much to all of our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Eric. And thanks as always to our patron executive producers, John, Ryan, Steve, Alex, and Andy and Hugh, h.u.e. Hugh. And I don't think he watches the show, but he should because he's one of the characters.
Thanks, Hugh.
Yeah, Hugh. And hopefully more Final Space Check. We cover a bunch of other shows. None of our adult animated shows coverage is really active. BoJack and Rick and Morty. BoJack all coming back soon enough. Maybe we'll look into Close Enough, right? Is that what so TBS has more animated stuff coming too. Find all that out at overlyanimated.com. And thank you guys very much for listening. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
I'll miss you, friends.